I've either got good news or bad news for you about the rapture, but let's go through each Bible verse that people use to help you know what's going on. Hi, I'm Jeremy. I'm a deep skeptic, also a pastor. So yet another person has given a date for the rapture, actually an updated date based on the calendar. That's actually been going on for a number of years. In fact, there was a book published named 88 Reasons Why Jesus Will Come in 88. That was 1988. And spoiler alert, the rapture was invented by a guy in the 1800s named John Darby. It's not real, but let's talk about the Bible verse. The first one is 1 Thessalonians chapter 4:17. It talks about people being caught up in the air. It's not talking about rapture. It's talking about when people die, they go to be with God, and they will be there when everybody else gets there. But my favorite way of looking at this comes from Dan McClellan. He talks about the way that a king returns from a victory in battle, and the king will be outside the city and then will return. Everybody will go out to meet the king, and the king will return with this sort of victory march parade kind of thing. And what Dan says is it's sort of pivoting that to be up in the sky, and it's like Jesus is returning as a king, and it's this imagery of everybody going to meet Jesus and then Jesus coming down and returning as a king. But it is not anything close to what people talk about the rapture. Then there's Matthew chapter 24, and Matthew chapter 24 is interesting because this is the passage where it says that there will be two people working in the field. One people will be taken and the other person will be left, all of that kind of stuff. There's a number of those circumstances that it gives. But this one doesn't require any special knowledge. You actually just read the context, and it talks about it will be like the days of Noah. Now, if you look at the Noah story is talking about all of the evil people in the world being swept away. And so if anything, this is talking about evil people being taken away and the good people being left. So if you put it in Christian terms, it would be the evil people being taken and the Christians being left. Like, that's just a plain text reading of that passage in Matthew chapter 24. No special education required. So again, not the rapture. And then there's some places in the book of Revelation that people sometimes point to. But the problem is that the book of Revelation is a type of literature called apocalyptic literature. And apocalyptic literature is all about metaphors and is talking to people. And the book of Revelation is actually talking to the people that existed at that time. You really get a full sense of it because it begins with letters to people that existed at that time in specific places, letters to Christians in specific places. And what's happening at that time is that Christians are being persecuted. And so there's this like real big sort of existential problem. If God is good and we're doing the right things, then why are we the ones being persecuted and not the Romans? In fact, why are those evil people actually getting more and more powerful, more and more influential, more and more wealthy, all of that kind of stuff? And so what Revelation does is it's, one scholar says it's like a revenge fantasy that says that eventually the powers will be reversed and the Christians will be the ones in power and in charge, and the evil people will be punished. Again, not the rapture. And Revelation isn't talking about the future, it's talking about right then. So I don't know if this is good news or bad news for you, but the rapture isn't real. It's not a valid interpretation of the Bible, and this is scholarly consensus. This is not me just making stuff up. You can look at any legitimate biblical scholar that's well respected. They're going to all say the same thing.